Good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of you here this morning. We want to thank you for coming to join us today. I'm Connie Thomas. I am a member of Holman United Methodist Church. And on behalf of our church and all of our pastors and all of our church members and all of our staff, we want to welcome you to Holman. And we extend an invitation to please come again. Sunday mornings, we are here at an 8 o'clock service and an 11 o'clock service. As many of you know, our 11 o'clock service is broadcast on KJLH. I will give you some logistics on the building while you're here. If you are in need of the restrooms, they are out the back door, the back entrance there to your left, the men and the women's restroom. The entrance or the exit to get into the parking lot is on the west side of the building. Just continue all the way to the end of the hallway and you'll find the parking lot and cars. Today we have one janitor and I think one security guard, and we're hoping that there are no problems. I know a lot of things are going on in the community, and some of you probably ran into having to reroute your travel because of the things that are going on. We did not know there were so many things going on. If anybody knows what's going on at the Obama Center, please let me know, because I was blocked for a little while with the traffic entering the Obama Center. If there's anything that you need, please let me know or any of our team working today. We want to make sure your visit today is comfortable, happy, enjoyable. So at this time, I'm going to turn our program over to Ms. Tiffany Quarles so that we can get started. And again, welcome and thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Connie, so much for opening up Holman to us and hosting. Holman's been a staple in our community for as long as I can remember. I grew up not too far from here, and I just know the importance that the church and the ministry plays in the community. So thank you for giving us space to inform the community about this important movement. Before we get started, we do want to open in prayer. I asked Deacon Champion, who's the board of our group, the Lineage Equity and Advancement Project, which I'll talk to you more about when I come back up, but I wanted him to start us out with prayer, and then we're going to get started from there. So, Deacon Marcus Champion.
All right, good morning, everyone. Please bow your heads, close your eyes for a word of prayer. Father God, we thank you for bringing us here today together to fellowship. We thank you, Lord, for this brief time being able to receive information, Lord. And I thank you, Lord, that everyone here has a heart for our people, Lord, and a want and a desire for us to see better, Lord, for us to get the justice that we deserve, Lord. We pray, Lord, that today is fruitful. We pray, Lord, that what we learned today can put folks into action, Lord, and lead to the result. And we thank you for the victory, Lord, before we even see it, Lord. You told us in the word, Lord, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And we thank you, Lord, that we have the victory, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
So I did have a PowerPoint presentation, so y'all didn't just have to listen to me talk, but due to technical difficulties, we couldn't get the laptop connected. So I'm just gonna talk with you all. I hope y'all don't mind, because I'm here just to give you information so you understand what's going on and how this impacts your life. So before I get into reparations and what's going on in California, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the organization that put this event on. We are the Lineage, Equity, and Advancement Project, also known as LEAP. We got started in 2019 to advocate for reparations for Black Americans whose families were enslaved in this country. We met each other online, on Twitter, believe it or not, and we all were passionate about this issue. We all, perfect strangers, took a risk, got on social media, started organizing, and we've been doing this for 6 years. So this shows that God, He can use whoever, He can bring people together however He brought us together. I do want to introduce some members of our board before we get started. I'm Tiffany Quarles, co-chair. We have Lori Jenkins, who's right back there, hand up. She's our co-chair as well. We have Marcus Champion, who's our board member. Natalie Champion, his wife, but she's back there checking everyone in, and there are other members of our board who aren't here this morning but are supporting by watching. So that's a little bit about who we are. I wanted to talk with you all today about reparations specifically in California. I know that you've probably heard the term reparations, you've heard about it being talked about in the media, but we wanted to make sure that you all have the correct information and to understand what's going on currently with your state legislature. So before we get into the bills that are currently in our state legislature, I wanted to give you all a brief background as to how California even got involved in the reparations conversation in the first place. Because reparations, obviously you think reparations for slavery, and you might say to yourself, well, California was never a slave state. It entered the Union a free state. I'm sure we all got that, but due to the research from the task force, it's actually discovered that wasn't the case. So even though California entered technically as a free state, there still was enslavement, I would say under the table, and that California permitted it. And also, when our ancestors came from the South who were runaways, the state would send them back. So California is complicit in slavery, but we know there's a lot that happened after. So because of this history, Dr. Shirley Weber, who is now our Secretary of State, she wanted to establish a task force to study California's role and to see if there is a justification for California to pay reparations. The goal ultimately is for the U.S. federal government to pay, but she felt like, and we felt like, since California is the largest state in the union, it's the most populous and wealthiest state, now the fourth largest economy, that if we get this done right here, we will serve as a template as to what the federal government can and will do for us. Because I'm sure we've all heard, oh, they ain't gonna give us nothing. It can't be done. White folk ain't gonna, we've all heard the naysayers, but we're here to show that with God, all things are possible. It can and it will get done, and we're leading the way. So California is so important to the whole national reparations movement, because people around the country and nation are watching to see what we do. But anyways, back to Shirley Weber. She was an assemblywoman back in 2019. She was based in San Diego, and at the time was the chair of our Black Caucus. She actually authored a bill called Bill AB 3121. And that bill was to study and develop reparations proposals for African Americans. And how we got involved is that we found out, because we have colleagues in Sacramento who work with us, who told us, the state is thinking about doing this. So we inserted ourselves into the process, and we asked, can we help? We were already pushing for reparations at the federal level. It just so happened that she was thinking about doing it at the same time we were. So she welcomed us in, and we helped by sending amendments, giving her language. And one of the things that we stress is that it should be based on lineage. Instead of it being reparations for Black people, we told her, it should be based on status, because here in California we have Prop 209, which says if any legislation is done based on race, it's unconstitutional. So we have barriers in place at the state level, but we also have the 14th Amendment, which is the equal section, which also prohibits anything being done based on race. And you see what's happening now at the national level with these conversations on affirmative action. So it just shows we were reading the political climate correctly, that the nation was heading towards this place where there's no desire or appetite for anything race-based. So we said it should be based on status, meaning that a descendant of a U.S. enslaved person here in the U.S. Your family, you can prove that you had an ancestor that was enslaved somewhere in the U.S., then you would be eligible. So it's not because you're black, it's because you're a part of this class. Think of it as sort of as a class action suit where you have a group of people who have a claim against a party. Well, that's how we framed it, not based on skin color, but based on status, and she agreed with that. And that was a huge win because it gave us a fighting chance for this to at least be a viable project. So AB 3121 was a task force meant to study reparations for African Americans who are descendants of persons enslaved in this country. That was in 2020. Governor Newsom signed it into law. A lot of people, I'm sure some of you may or may not have heard of it, but when it happened, you know, it was a lot going on in the country, such as like the George Floyd uprisings, and yeah, it was all sorts of things. I think it kind of went under the radar, but it was monumental and a big deal. And so it was one of my most proudest moments to be a part of, just getting the task force established. That was a win. And so that task force started 2021, and it was 9 people selected by the governor. Our Speaker of the House at the time was Anthony Rendon, and the Speaker pro tem. They all picked folks to sit on this task force charged with finding out why California should pay. So it was 2 years of studying, people coming to testify, and like I said, went back to California history when it was in a union, not when it was Mexico or Spain, specifically when it was a part of the U.S. And they looked at slavery, the segregation era, and just the history to the present. And they came up with a whole list of harms that Black Americans have endured. So they came up with 12 areas of harm. I don't know all of them at the top of my head. That's why I have my PowerPoint presentation. But the state basically the state down, yes, California should pay reparations. You did this to this, and this to these folks. And they found that it cost $800 billion worth of harm towards our community. So some people think, oh, I don't think y'all went through that deal out here. You know, our families came from the South, fleeing Jim Crow, came here and they experienced pretty much similar to what they left, such as discrimination in housing, redlining, state-sponsored violence, disparities in education, and just, you know, $800 billion worth of damage. Just think about, you know, how extensive that is. So the state has done enough to warrant paying reparations. So when you hear people say, well, California, why should California pay reparations? It was never a slave state. This task force basically found otherwise, and they released a final report that's over 1,000 pages. It goes through all the harms, and then at the end of the report, it lists recommendations on how to repair that harm. I suggest, if you haven't already, to read through that report. It's online at the Attorney General's website. If you just Google or the search engine California Reparations Final Report, you'll be able to read through it. And I suggest you all do, because when the time comes, you're going to want to be able to show, you know, yes, I am someone who suffered. Maybe you had your land taken. Maybe gone through one of the various areas of harms that they acknowledge. So once again, go, if you haven't already, look up the California Reparations Final Report. Read through it. It's over 1,000 pages, but they do have a summary if you don't want to read all 1,000 pages. And they also have over 100 recommendations on how to repair the damage. So that is a quick summary of how and why we're having this conversation today, and why we're here today. Because I know some of you already know this. Some of you may have never heard this before, and so I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands like why it's relevant and why you should care and why you should get involved, because the state did actually accept the findings of the report. They took accountability and said, you know what, yes, we did this. And they issued an apology. So that means that since they've taken responsibility, the next phase is obviously to pay actual reparations. So we have that going for us, that the state took accountability for it. And that apology was last year. I don't know, did anyone hear about that in the press? Okay, good. like some of you may not have known that, yeah, the state apologized and, they agreed that they did it. So the next phase is to actually put reparations legislation into place. So I'm gonna have Marcus come soon and talk about some of the legislation that's in our legislature now and the challenges that we're going through that you should understand. Before that happens, I do want to talk a little bit about what happened last year. We were able, one of the findings of the report was basically, one of the recommendations was, in order for reparations to be paid, you need infrastructure. In order to be eligible, like I said earlier, you have to demonstrate that you are a descendant was enslaved in this country. So that means you have to trace your genealogy. And so recommendations is that the state open an independent agency that is tasked with tracing our genealogy for free. Let me just ask with a show of hands, how many of you in here actually traced your genealogy and found an enslaved ancestor in this country so far? Just raise your hand. Okay, good. So some of you have already done that work, some of you haven't, but this agency will be tasked with finding that information for you. And just, that was a fight just to get them to agree to do lineage based, because there were critics saying, well, Black Americans can't trace their genealogy back to slavery. People have lost records, people changed their names. There were all sorts of reasons why this couldn't be done, but we actually had some expert genealogists who testified at the hearing, during the hearing phase, that not only is it possible, they have been doing this for decades. They basically are clear that they can trace our genealogy. You don't even have to go back to the 1800s due to just how immigration in this country was formed. They really didn't let a lot of Black immigrants from Africa or the Caribbean. So they're basically saying, if you can prove that one of your ancestors was in the American South in the year 1900, just by them being their descendant. So if you are wondering, well, how will I go all the way back to 1840 or 1850 to find an enslaved ancestor? You don't have to do that. So it is possible. It is very much, they're very much able to trace our genealogy. So this agency that the task force recommended was in part charged, and we were able to get one of the task force members, Senator Stephen, who at the time was the state senator for maybe like Gardena, Compton, that region. He was a task force member. He decided he was gonna be the author of the legislation for the agency, which was called the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, which was an homage to the Freedmen's Bureau, which I'm sure we've all heard of the Freedmen's Bureau from Reconstruction. So they were thinking, let's bring back a better version of the Freedmen's Bureau that can serve as our agency. And he authored the bill based on the task force report. He had supported of us as grassroots activists. He had all the votes. He got it through both houses, our state assembly and our state senate. That's when it was up for the final vote. This was August 31st of last year. It got to the floor for the final vote. He told us, I have the vote to get this through. Well, it was blocked at the very last minute by our Black legislators. We actually drove up to Sacramento. I drove up with a group of people to witness what I thought was history. I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna finally get an agency. We're gonna have this major breakthrough as a people. And when I got there, they were like, Governor Newsom has issues with the bill. And this is like at the very last minute after it's gone through how many committees. But for whatever reason, at the very last minute, Governor Newsom put the brakes on, and he basically worked with the Black Caucus to block the bill. And so we watched in real time as our Black legislators, whom you've known for years, basically we still to this day don't, in my opinion, a legit excuse as to why they did that. They blocked it at the very last minute, and I can't even tell you just the sense of horror that we all felt. So those of us in the movement, came back up here again, and we protested, demanding that they bring this bill up to the floor for a final vote. And they just absolutely refused to do it. So we were just like this close to getting the agency, which is like a major breakthrough in reparations, because once that agency is established, the next phase is reparations. And that's probably why Governor Newsom backed out at the last minute, because he was very supportive in the beginning, but for whatever reason, he backed out. So we didn't get the agency. We saw that we could, I feel like the positive spin is we saw that we can get legislation for Black Americans. There are people willing to vote on it. So even though it didn't get through, it could have had not our Black legislators, the governor representing our community. So we didn't get it through. They promised us they would get it back this year. So Marcus is going to give more details about that. They did bring back a semblance of an agency. So Marcus will go into detail about that more.
Any other quick questions before I move on to the next bill?
Yes, thanks for sharing that. In the event that it does pass, what can we do? Because that's, to be honest, that's really the most realistic. With Governor Newsom's amendments in that bill, and Brother Chad said that on Tip's birthday, he made the same point. So what can we do after the fact to make sure they don't take 4 years to do the stuff?
So, because this is a sensitive process, I can't go like into super explicit detail, but I'll say that we have plans in place with what we're trying to do to bring forth legislation that can stop that process even after it is passed. Is what we're trying to do. And you actually brought me to another point that I forgot to mention. SB 437. Even though Senator Akilah Weber Pearson is the author, so everybody heard when Tiffany talked about last September, we drove up to Sacramento to try to get them to do the right thing to pass former Senator Bradford's agency bill. Everybody remembers that part, right? So I would say, was it 2 or 3 days before the close of session, Bradford got amendments from the governor's office that would have completely changed the bill. It would have changed it from an agency and turned it into a study 3 days before the end of session. Now, if you look at the original form of SB 437 and you compare it with those amendments that the governor's office sent to Bradford, they were pretty much verbatim. So even though she's the author, she didn't actually write it. The governor's office, staff in the governor's office wrote it. So this is directly from the governor in terms of trying to delay the process and do more study.
You asked what can we do? Well, there's an election coming up in next year. So all these folks are up for re-election, and they're, that's one of the reasons why we're here today. So because sometimes when there's somebody who we're familiar with, we keep voting them in. And I feel like this whole reparations process to me has exposed them. Like, to me, there's no excuse. I've been in this community my whole life. And I'm a so-called millennial, and I've watched the generations before me vote for the same people over and over. And I just feel like we need to move past that and start holding our Black elected officials accountable. We just can't say, oh, because you're Black or Democrat. So if this doesn't wake you up that our own Black elected officials are working to sabotage us, then I don't know what will. There's no excuse for it. So we got people running, and we need to get them out. That's just the bottom line. We need to run elected officials who are going to have the courage.
So that people know.
Yeah, so this district right here, this is, I believe, Isaac Bryan.
No.
No, it's Sade.
For which?
This area is in Isaac. It's Isaac Bryan. So, Isaac is one of the ones who's talking all the cool stuff, talking all the pro-Black stuff, pretending like he's down. He was the main one trying to block the bill.
Well, depending on what they need.
No.
Right.
Let's not forget the senator.
Yeah, the senator, Lola Smallwood Cuevas. All our Black legislators are complicit. So, when election comes around, they're going to be talking all this pro-Black stuff, trying to scare you because of ICE or whatever the issue is. They gonna want us to vote for them, and we gotta just, for once as a community, we gotta stand up for ourselves. Look at, if some of you are from here, look what happened to our community. This whole area that used to be Black. And what happened right under their noses. And I feel like this might be our last chance. I don't know. to do something to turn it around for us and to get some much needed resources. And if you still vote for these people after everything that they did, I don't know what to tell you. So this election, they're gonna be coming to our community. Y'all know what's going on. Do not let them get away with it. And so I just wanted to share that. But I see Via has her hand up, and I'm gonna go here and sit back down.
When does this go for vote?
437. It actually just came out of the Higher Education Committee last week. It hasn't been scheduled for the next committee yet. If you pay attention to the CJEC or the LEAP Twitter pages, we usually will update when the hearings are coming up, and so that's typically what we do. I think before we end, we'll give out all the Twitter information, or with our mailing list too, we send out information when stuff happens, and so we'll be better about that too. Okay. But it hasn't been scheduled for its next hearing yet. Okay. July for 437?
It's Tuesday.
Okay, for like Timmy said, Tuesday, July 1st is the next hearing. Okay. And so that is the type of hearing where if you got time, if you feel like going to Sacramento and you want to stand in opposition, you can stand up when they ask who's in opposition. You can say, I oppose SB 437. That is the public can attend that and speak on it. Okay.
And you can call, call your elected officials. Like, everybody should know who their assemblyman or woman is, or your senator. And you can just, we have, we'll talk about calls to action, but we're gonna talk about what you can do. Go ahead.
All right, and then
basically be selling out Black Californians for, fake Bruce Wayne's presidential ambitions. And I think that's something that can be pursued more concretely, and it might actually resonate with people, especially since, the Gestapo are pulling people off the street. And it's not just Latino people, they're pulling out Black people, and they're charging Black immigrants a whole lot more for, all these other things. But I'm just curious around, that part, because for me, it's really obviously about the governor's presidential ambitions.
yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head pretty much. If you didn't hear what the brother was saying, he was talking about how this is pretty much all on the governor, his presidential ambitions, and basically that. And so we have mounted campaigns against that. Just being honest about the situation. Like Tiffany talked about, we're a bunch of folks who knew each other offline, who met each other off the street and decided to work to bring about reparations. None of us, in terms of our status as individuals, have a lot of reach or pull. We're just regular folks from the hood. We've tried to tap into different celebrities and whatnot. If you've been paying attention to the movement, when Dr. Shirley Weber, Secretary of State, was trying to move AB 3121, Governor Newsom waited until the last day to actually sign that bill. And so Tiffany and Lori were able to reach out to Ice Cube. And so we had meetings with Ice Cube, and he decided to go public, putting pressure on Newsom to sign the bill. And so we saw the power of celebrity in real time. We've since tried to reach out to Cube for different things, but I think in the wake of Cube having conversations with Donald Trump, he said nothing about being a supporter, being a Republican, nothing like that. He was just doing what he was supposed to do as a citizen. You do politics, you do government, you talk to both sides. You work with who's going to give you what you need and what you want. And so that's what Cube was trying to do. He got a lot of backlash being friendly to Trump. And so I think he's kind of done with politics. And so we've been trying to reach out to different celebrities just to put pressure up. We've been trying to reach out to Kendrick Lamar. We've been trying to reach out to all types of folks just to get pressure out there to not only Newsom, but our CLBC members. Celebrities will be more effective getting our CLBC to move than even the governor. And so, it's a work in progress. That's all I can say. Any other questions?
You mentioned Governor Newsom. We definitely plan on having a campaign targeting him because he is the source of all this. And, he's going to run for president, like you said, and he's going to be trying to get the Black vote throughout the nation. until you get this done right. Like, I refuse to sit back and be quiet while he's going across the country pretending like he did something to help Black folk. And he's the main reason why this is being blocked, because if you look at the timeline, like August 31st, 2024 is right before Vice President Kamala Harris announced her presidency. I think, this is my theory, that he thought he was gonna be the heir apparent. I think he thought, Biden's gonna step down and it's gonna be me. And I can use this reparations to help get the Black vote throughout the South and the Midwest. But when Kamala Harris was selected, that's when he changed all of a sudden. Almost he felt like, well, I can't use this now, so we're gonna wait until I run for president. And we're not gonna let him get away with that. Yes.
Well, you just mentioned, she's trying to run for 2026.
Well, there's rumors that she's planning on running for governor. And
Yes. She dodged that when she was on.
yes, she did. Okay, so we actually went to the White House this time last year and to talk reparations to President Biden and his administration. And when we went there, members of her staff were in the meeting. We didn't know that they were going to have them there. And they basically we've been following everything you've been doing in California, because she's from here, and her pastor, Amos Brown, was on the task force. So they was like, she knows all of what's going on. They knew our names and everything. I'm like, are y'all following us? But the point is, she was aware. And when August 31st happened, it started getting in the press, and it forced her to address it. And she basically just said, I'm gonna just pass it to Congress, because she didn't want to come out and say I'm for it or against it. She just said if Congress passes HR 40, which is the federal version of what we did here in California, then I'll sign it. But when she runs for governor, she's gonna have to deal with it again, right? Because we're not going anywhere. This movement's just getting started. So whoever runs for governor, they're gonna have to deal with reparations. And so she's gonna be on the hot seat too. But I just wanted to let you know that yes, we will be putting pressure on Governor Newsom. The plan is to step up. I still believe we can stop 437. Even though Marcus said he feels like it's likely he'll get through, I still believe we could put enough pressure on them and stop it and fix 518. That's what we want. We want 437 killed. We don't want a better version of that. We want that gone. We want the $12 million to go towards the agency. We want our genealogy trace. So let me just say this. This is just my opinion. I find it interesting how you hear all about the 14th Amendment now, birthright citizenship. And yesterday, President Trump said, it was written for the babies of slaves. That's us. So isn't it interesting how Reconstruction is just coming back, and we are being forced to deal with that because it was never finished. And so I believe that's even more of a justification why we need our agency. If you're saying that you're going to end birthright citizenship and it was meant for the babies of slaves, well, we need our genealogy trace, in my opinion, to protect us even more, because that's us. It was written for us, and other groups have used it, but I feel like that's even a stronger justification, in my opinion, why we need it now and not to push it down, because I heard that the Supreme Court is going to rule on this in October. There's a chance they may just end it and go back to the original intent. We don't know. They may not, but that might be even more of a reason why we need to get Black Americans' genealogy trace, in my opinion. But it's interesting that we brought back the concept of freedmen. I think you probably heard Marcus mention that. I just want to briefly touch on that, and I'll sit down. The freedmen, we brought back the status which we're calling American freedmen. That is connected to Reconstruction. When slavery ended, and when the U.S. government made all the promises, like the 40 acres and a mule, they gave the formerly enslaved and their descendants a new status called freedmen. You may have heard of the Choctaw freedmen, the Cherokee freedmen. Well, they gave the formerly enslaved Americans a status called freedmen. And that status is a non-racial status that was meant to protect the formerly enslaved and their descendants, where you can write legislation that isn't race-based, but it is sort of like a protected status. I would liken it to veteran, or maybe you could say, a refugee status. Right, it's a status that not only was given to the formerly enslaved, but their descendants. We forgot about it because if you look at the history of Reconstruction, the white supremacists basically ended the whole thing, and all the promises that were made to us didn't happen. but we brought it back because we felt like it was a status that could be used for us so we can write legislation specifically for our community without them saying it's race-based. So when you hear us use the term like freedmen, or the Freedmen Affairs Agency, it's really like, it's bringing us back to the unfulfilled promises of Reconstruction, which is when reparations should have been paid. And so we were able to get that enshrined in law through another bill we wrote, because one of the things, due to Prop 209, you can't do anything for us. And that's why we, affirmative action, you can't do anything based on race. But with American Freedmen, we may have a chance to justify programs to specifically target our community. So that's why you keep hearing say freedmen. It's connected to Reconstruction.
What's his name, Dean Chemerinsky and how he values.
Yes, thank you. So Lori brought up Dean Erwin Chemerinsky. He's the current Dean of Law at UC Berkeley, and he's argued before the Supreme Court more than any attorney in the U.S. history. He's very respected in the legal field. When we reached out to him, he offered his services pro bono, and he basically gave us guidance on coming up with a status that we can write legislation for us and us exclusively without them saying, well, you're trying to use it as a proxy for race, it's based on race. And he agreed that we had a good chance with freedmen. So we're building that out. So we want to see if we can make this work. If we could define anyone who's descendant of a U.S. enslaved person as a freedman, and we can get legislation based on that, and it would help us to justify bringing back an affirmative action program for the freedmen or any other legislation that would help our community with the justification of it being redress. So that's why we're using freedmen in our reparations legislation and why you hear us mention it. So I just want to make sure you all understood where we're coming from with that.
So I just want to address the governor's presidential aspirations. The governor, if he does not support it, he has the power to veto it. That does not excuse or justify the elected officials we elected to represent us to back down, to cave in, to kowtow down, because they think the governor doesn't support it. They're supposed to represent us and push it. So, everyone, please keep that in mind.
Exactly, and what they did was they basically took the cover for the governor because they should have just brought it forth, and if he's going to veto it, let him veto it. And so then the whole state black population knows where Newsom stands. But instead, they chose to hold his or carry his water. And I want to say real quick before I get to the next question, since that happening at the end of session last year in September, our CLBC members, with the exception of Senator Richardson, will not have conversations with us. They won't talk to us at all. And so we brought them language for the agency. We took that, would have made it better. Actually, up until there was a Republican member, Assemblyman Bill Asaley. We actually had another bill with him, which was AB 1315? AB 1315. That was our version of the agency. And so we were able to work with a Republican to introduce a bill for our agency that was better than what they're putting out there right now. And so they actually got all of that language first. We sent out everything to them first because even though what happened last September happened, this is still a process. Even though we don't have to like each other to work and get things done, but they won't communicate with us. With this SB 437 bill, Tiffany talked about, we want that bill killed. That's where it needs to be. We don't need more studies. In offering them an alternative as some sort of compromise, we talked about, well, if you don't want to kill SB 437, well then change the study to be about something that would benefit us. During the task force, we had a team of economists who talked about the different forms of compensation that we should be receiving. And they talked about, in one case, direct compensation, cash payments. And they came up with an equation that said was, depending on how old you were and how long you had been living within the state, you would get more money. So my mom, who has been here for 45 years, she's 74 years old, she would have got something like $1.5, $1.6 million, something like that. And so we told Keela Wepper's office through an intermediary, because again, she won't have conversations with us. why don't you change this study to be to comb through the budget and the state systems to figure out how you can pay direct cash payments, something like that, and completely out. Don't even want to entertain the thought of it. And so just want to add that point in before we get to the last few questions. Who was next? Or Kevin, you go.
Yeah.
So I'll go Kevin and then go to you back here.
I think that it's important that as we move forward with the campaign, we need to definitely focus on SB 518's relationship with the Department of Justice. Is that Department of Justice? And so, I think that's something that would really resonate with a lot of black folks in our communities, because basically what is happening is that they're criminalizing our access to reparations. Because under the Department of Justice, a lot of black folks are not even going to want to pursue reparations because they might have something on their head. Okay, you got some folks that might submit for reparations, and then next thing you know, the police is at the door. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a very important aspect of 518 that as a campaign, all of us should probably figure out how to make that message known because, I think that our community would really resonate with that and they would probably support us a lot on that issue. The second thing that I wanted to say was being that they won't communicate with, I guess you could say our brains, you know what I'm saying, then they should not be allowed to be comfortable anywhere they are out there in the society, you know what I'm saying? Anywhere that they are, they having lunch, they having dinner, they having a press conference, they had a show, they had basketball, they should not be allowed to be comfortable anywhere that they are. So whatever, measures that we can take within the law to interrupt their life publicly, I think that we need to do that because, it's like, it's going to take a little bit of aggressive tactics to really, get some of these people to say, maybe we need to look at something different, and so.
So we should question them wherever we see them.
Wherever, and make a scene if you have to, and make a scene if you have to.
And to your point, Kevin, folks remember what we talked about. Akilah Weber Pearson's mother is Secretary of State Dr. Shirley Weber. And so one would think naturally there's synergy there to put the agency in her office. The Secretary of State's office also is in charge of the California Archives, and they have a project that started this year of emphasizing African American genealogy. So why wouldn't you sit the office in the Secretary of State's office? We have been saying if we can't fully stop it, we want to try to make it as best as we can. And we've been trying to advocate to remove it from the DOJ's office ever since they made the announcement, adamantly against it. Will not even have a conversation about it. And like Tiffany just mentioned to me, it's because this is where Governor Newsom wants it to be.
The reason why it's in the DOJ versus the Secretary, first of all, it should be a standalone agency, right? But because of budget restraints, they figure, well, we'll just fold it into an already existing office. So there was a group of black activists in Northern California who said, put it in the Secretary of State. But we found out that Governor Newsom wanted it in the DOJ because he has access to the DOJ. Like he has control over it, but he doesn't have control over the Secretary of State's office. So he wants to keep his hand in it and be able to control the process. That's why it's in the DOJ and why they're not putting it in an office where it protects us. He wants to control this whole process for whatever the reason, even though this is I think next year is his last year. So he wants to give the governor control. So they put it in an agency where whoever's the next governor can also have say over it. But like Kevin said, it no way is that right for our community. And I agree. I think that is a selling point to get more people involved and engaged to at least put it in the Secretary of State's office where we have more control over it as Black Americans and our information is protected, and that those of us who may have a felony or some sort of criminal liability, they still should get reparations and they shouldn't feel afraid to go file a claim. Everybody who's a descendant is owed reparations. We don't care what you did, and you are owed. So we want to make sure that everybody is safe and feels comfortable filing a claim. I'm gonna send you. Thank you guys all for coming out, but it's just that for the questions, we want to make sure that people can hear them on the live feed. So if you don't mind coming up here or asking your question a little louder so it can be captured on the video. Who was next for a question? Because for this one, I'll run the microphone number to you. Here. I'll come up. Okay.
Good morning, fellow community members. My name is Denise Neal, California native. I'm from Oakland, grew up in Compton and Long Beach, and I'm here in West LA now. That's right. I want to know if, in the meantime, while we're dealing with all this madness, if our community is willing to work with a South Asian hedge fund. That's how I got Obama phones made. $500 billion hedge fund, soon to be $1 trillion. They said, the hedge fund manager told me, maybe God puts you in touch with us because he wants to help your people for such a time as this. We haven't cashed that check yet, and I'd like to know if you'd be interested in building a fiscally responsible financial system for us, whether it be credit union, trust funds for our community, look out for our elderly, our disabled, our children, and to set up a working financial structure while we're waiting for all this madness to be settled. Are we willing to do that? Because the hedge fund is standing in the wings. I helped get India on NBC through them, and I got those Obama phones to the community through them. So I would like for you to really think about this, and we need to collaborate and prepare. Because when we have rain coming, we want to set up a capture system. Don't let this money come and hit the ground, and then it goes nowhere. Think about it, and let's talk. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd just like to know, since our black legislators aren't supporting and they won't communicate, have you been directly to the governor, who seems to be puppeteering this for his political aspirations? He has a podcast. Have you been invited on? Can you talk directly to him?
We've been trying to get meetings with the governor for the past 3 years. I mean, we've had countless number of meetings with the governor's office and staff within his office, but we have yet to meet with the governor, and it's not for a lack of trying, pretty much. So we have what's on.
I think that we can engage the governor online too, sister. So, sister who posed a question about the governor. Go in the comments on his podcast and demand that he meet with us and talk about reparations. I have this. She has a question. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you guys can remain.
Thank you.
We'll bring the mic to you.
I got a statement and a question. I'm Mansa Musa Hill. I'm with the Africatown Coalition / and Thundercats, Black Panther Party for National Defense. And basically, I found out about this through the Africatown Coalition. I'm saying with everybody in here, but the questions that's running through my head is, do y'all understand that this is a 21st century movement? You got the civil rights movement, you got the black power movement. This is the reparations movement. In the 21st century, we're gonna make sure the word reparations is resonating on everyone's lips. We're gonna make sure that you understand that it's gonna take sacrifice. And just like they discussed in the principles of black power, politics and liberation in America, they got times where these white supremacists try to kick you out your homes, burn your homes, and do all kinds of things that impede you. Make sure we are prepared to endure these types of things coming up in the future. Reparations is the next move of the future for the liberation of black people. I'm gonna say it again, liberation is the move for the liberation of black people. We in church, my name is Moses. One part I don't like about the story of Moses was, after all that hard work, he gets on Mount Nebo, see the promised land, and die. I hate that part of the story. Let's rewrite that part. Everybody in here, you know what a freedom rider is. Everybody in here, you know the sacrifices our people's taking. This time, we're gonna make sure that we hit the promised land. Our feet hit the soil of actual freedom. I'm with the African Liberation. I really can go on and on and on and on. Right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your question.
Make sure that you know we have a protracted struggle. It's not going to be finished overnight. I wish my last request is, let's stop referring to the guy, what's his name, Newsom? Let's refer to that guy as Gruesome Newsom. If you don't call him Gruesome Newsom, I'm going to get offended. That's really it. Power to the people, power to the reparations movement. In the name of the African Coalition, power.
Okay, I have more of a solution, right? Because I'm solution-based. Because these problems have been existing for decades in our community. So let's just stop playing. Whether or not Newsom is going for president, or whether or not, what's her name, Harris, want to be governor, her husband just got appointed as a professor, I believe, at USC.
Yes.
So she also visits the church here in England. So let's stop playing, okay? The way that we can affect this is what we're doing now. Education. You have to know what the bills mean, how they read, and what they understand. And this way, you can advocate much, much better for your people. Now, Tony Thurman, he is the state superintendent of education for the state of California, who is also a California Legislative Black Caucus member. Him and the former board member, Dr. McKenna, they have a relationship. They know what the issues are in LA County, and specifically in LAUSD. So we're not sure who's rubbing whose elbows and who getting greased up. Because what we do know is that our children are not performing for some odd reason below standard. And the community is quiet. So I see elders in here who should be grandparents, and parents. We need you guys out there at the schools. They're doing some atrocious things, not just to our children, but also to those educators who support our communities. Those representatives are not supporting our community, period. They went after the BSAP program and claimed that it was a George Floyd thing, but never addressing the disparities for education and for Black students. How is it that students that come here who say they speak no English is outperforming Black students who've been here, whose parents and grandparents and great-grandparents been here and went through LAUSD, and still performing below grade level? That should be a no-can-do. The board members are meeting on Tuesdays and I believe on Thursdays when school resumes. There is a group of us that do be down there. We need more of us down there. There is a program called Safe Passage that was initiated in that BSAP program to hire some of the young men and women within our community. That program is being attacked. And they want that program to be defunded. So we have some of our good, great immigrants that everybody wants us to go out here and support, who are the ones who are behind that. Who are the ones who are behind the dismantling of the BSAP program to help uplift our children and bring them from out of those areas where they struggle, math, science, and reading, and even a foreign language. Let's stop playing in here. My mother graduated from Jefferson High School. And she went to John Adams, and she went over there, I guess, to 24th Elementary School. Have you been over to Jefferson High School lately? What about Washington? What about Manual Arts? What about Crenshaw? What about Dorsey? We can even include the Inglewood Unified School District. Let's stop playing. We need to get our foot on the pavement.
Thank you, Sister Monique. And Sister Monique raised so many valid points, and she speaks to my soul because I know Sister Monique knows I did very critical work in the founding of the Black Student Achievement Program. It was a beautiful program, and actually on Tuesday, we just won another $50 million annual investment into that program, which brings us to now $175 million annually invested into Black students. The problem is implementation. We have principals who don't believe in the program and are not spending that money. So every year there's rollover and our students are not getting access to the programs to the resources that the programs were designed to fund. This year only was $39 million went unspent throughout the district on our Black students. So we do, like Sister Monique said, we need more parents. I'm the person that you can talk to. We mobilize Black parents to the school board on a regular basis. We're winning, but we need those funds to really be supporting our students. Where was the other question?
Well, actually,
and then I had a question about the.
Well, we do have a hard stop at one.
Okay.
Cat Lego, here's going to be our final question statement.
But I have one real important one. Before I became a mic runner, I had my hand up for a question. So in the budget, in this current budget, the governor is proposing to allocate that $12 million that was supposed to go into implementing our Freedmen's Bureau, and now is being sent to nonprofit organizations. Is there a way for us to stop that from happening?
I don't think so.
Let me just make a comment about these Black nonprofits. Like, some of them, do really good work and are serious about helping the community, but many of them are just there to pimp the struggle. Like, they get so much money from the state, the city, off of our situation, off of our struggle. And since I've been doing this work, they have been some of the main ones trying to hinder this process because they want the funding to go to them. And what we advocate is direct cash payments, direct services, because we don't want a middleman. And so these Black, like Marcus said, we're just regular people. So I had no idea how treacherous and how the lengths they would go through just to get grant funding. And just to see them try to desecrate reparations, it's just really disappointing. Like, some of these people we've known for years and thought they were for us, and they're just showing their true colors. They just want to get paid. That's it. They don't care if you or I get nothing. They know we've been fighting for this for since the end of slavery, and this is the closest we've been, and now you want to emerge and try to help the system keep us down. And so $6 million is going to the Tides Foundation. Now, I don't know much about them. I don't think they're Black. I think they're like they're like a white philanthropical or that gives grants. And I believe we can stop. If we kill 437, then we stop it, but it is in the budget now. And so there's always a way to stop it, but they're hoping that people don't know what's going on, which is why we're hosting these events, so you do know what's going on, that this money is being
out of
given.
our own pocket.
Your tax dollars. So
No. We are paying out of our pocket to host this.
Yeah, we don't get grants.
Other organizations that do get money don't do this kind of engagement.
Okay, so we can take a couple more questions, and we'll do a call to action. So we'll take Daniel, Connie, Catalego, and you'll be the final one. So Catalego, Daniel, Connie.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? I ain't gonna be long-winded though, but it's a lot I gotta say. I'm gonna wrap it up quick as I can. Yeah, my name is Raymond Calego, Black Vanguard Soldier. People call me on social media, so I'm with the African Coalition and CJEC though. So I'm gonna just what happened on Juneteenth though. See, we had a beautiful Juneteenth. We was educating people about reparations. And I talked to Fox News. I saying, since Juneteenth supposed to be talking about reparations, are you gonna talk about reparations? Then the woman said, we don't believe in reparations. And then why you here trying to capitalize off of Juneteenth? You ain't talking about reparations. So that went left though. But then later on, it was some Hispanics that came over here trying to push their agenda onto our community on Juneteenth. So we took a group of people, we shut them down, we ran them about the community because we can't go to East LA, Southgate, Huntington Park, and try to push the black agenda in their community. They're not going to allow us to accept that. So, and then after that, the same day, Karen Bass showed up, tried to do a follow-up because she tried to get reelected because we're going on with the safe housing program. And the federal government, though, just took control of the homeless funds in the city of Los Angeles, though, for y'all to understand that. It's a long story, though, but I don't want to go into it. I don't want to be long-winded, though. So I asked Karen Bass, what are you going to do about reparations? She smiled, chuckling. She completely know my answer. And she got her security detail blocked me from actual reparations on the Juneteenth event on the Black Historic Holiday that our ancestors fought for, blood hard for, just to have this holiday celebrated on the federal level. Then I'm going to talk about what happened on Tuesday. The community came out and we told them we not supporting this illegal immigration issue. You have Isaac Bryan, Laura Smallwood, Cuevas, Tina McKillen, all the California Legislative Caucus members showed up, do a press conference with Karen Bass said we're going to support illegal immigration. We saw Isaac Bryan at the ICE Detention Center at in downtown. So we told him is that that's not gonna fly. So, and also I'm gonna talk about what happened Tuesday. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. So on Tuesday is that we went to a meeting. And we told them that we're not supporting this illegal immigration issue, though, because y'all ain't addressing the issue going on, especially when it comes to reparations. Because reparations is owed to our people. And then the same Latino organization show up on Tuesday at the Black Women for Wellness. We don't see these people advocating for lineage-based reparations, an anti-black hate crime bill, when it comes to our people in this country, though. So we tell them we're not with it, though, so we shut them down, let them know that we don't stand with illegal immigration. We want you to talk about issues specifically for our community, like lineage-based reparations or anti-black hate crime bill and other issues. There's more I got going in depth, though, but we out of time, though, so that's all I got to say for now.
Thank you. And I just want to do a quick shout out to Africa Town Coalition. They have been like holding it down in the community. So Billion, Kevin, Catalego, Ori, just thank y'all so much. So we have a hard stop, so we're gonna give Daniel and one more question, and we're gonna do a call to action and wrap.
Yeah, and I'll be quick. I did want to reiterate that, like, when I was on Culver City Council, my last year of mayor, we apologized for the city's history as a sundown town, but then we started a reparations process, and it's still in process. And, we're one of the only cities in California that did it. And if you know the history of Culver City, it's like, okay, that's a surprise. If Culver City can do it, the state of California can do it. But I just wanted to reiterate what you said and what Jan said. It's the nonprofit industrial complex in conjunction with black politicians that are really holding everything back. They say they do something really small and they call it revolutionary, or they sometimes even call it reparations. When it's just like a bill that would support, foster kids, or it's something that would support unhoused people or veterans. And they pretend that they've done it, and they try to sell this idea that if they're doing well, then we're doing well. When, we are consistently doing worse. And I think in conjunction with getting candidates to run against all of these people, we need to really vocally call out these organizations. I'm not from LA, I'm from Alabama, I grew up in Florida, but I got to know Community Coalition, and then I got to know Community Coalition, and there are a bunch of organizations like that, do some good for people who are within a 1 mile radius, but then suck up all the money that other organizations that are doing more for more people, they take that money away from them. So in conjunction with running candidates, I think we need to call out those organizations and take their money.
Thank you. Yes, we're going to take her as the final question. We're going to do a quick call to action, and we're going to wrap.
My question is, we keep hearing the adversity that's coming from certain California state politicians, the Black Caucus. What politicians should we be looking at in support of and voting for?
Question. So I would say so far the only Black Caucus member who's shown any sort of courage has been Senator Laura Richardson. She's new. She replaced Senator Bradford. But like Marcus said, we need to get rid of all of them, truthfully. Truth be told, we have that opportunity. So they're going to be running their campaigns, and they're going to come to churches, events, and it's on us to hold them accountable and put people in who are going to actually do this for our community. So, yeah.
So, well, let me ask. So we're actively talking to people that we know that have been active in this political process that understand what's going on. We welcome if you guys have any ideas of people that you know that would be potential good candidates to please refer them to us so that we can begin a process of vetting. But this is a community thing. It's not of whether LEAP is going to be able to find people to run for office. It's can we as a community locate people that we trust, that know that are actually for the community and will not let that almighty dollar, you know, how many people watch The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy, right? So we all know that story. It started off real good, you know, really powerful for the people, then that enticement. So we have to be able to vet these people and get commitments from them. And so we welcome any recommendations of or ideas or someone even in a smaller role. They do not have to have a public office. They could be over a union. They could be over a nonprofit. They could be, you know, so start thinking outside the box, not looking at people who are already in politics, because we can teach them. Because a lot of the people that are in politics now, they don't know anything about politics. I know Tina McKenna didn't come to politics, and there she is.
Thank you. Connie, I just want us to, we have like 5 more minutes, and I just want us to do a call to action. Connie's the host, so you get the final say.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I will only take 2 minutes. And what I want to say to each of you, all of you, is that you have a voice. Your voice is your power to vote for persons to represent you and speak to the legislature and speak to the governor and speak to the federal government and wherever. That is your voice. But you have to let your voice know you're holding them accountable. And that's something that we do not do. We go along with whatever is going, and we are neglected by our voice. They're not listening. They don't hear us. So our power to vote is our voice. And at no time with people who are not representing us should they run unopposed and get elected. None of our black legislators should run unopposed. But it's up to you to make that difference. You have either got to step up to the plate yourself, or you have got to talk to people who impress you with their qualifications to listen to you and represent you. There are so many persons in this city who can represent you and be your voice. It's up to you. So please remember, you don't want to vote for somebody who has not been listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have a call to action for everyone in here. Before you leave today, you can get involved. Like, there's something you can do, even if you can't go to an event like this, or you can send an email. We're going to have some more calls to action coming up this week, and we ask that you all help us by simply just clicking, putting your name in the form, and sending the email to whoever the call to action is. So we're going to have one, I believe, Monday. So everyone should have gotten one of these cards. Please, let us know if you didn't get one. But if you do have this card, there's a QR code on the card. Please scan it and sign up for our mailing list, because that is how we send and communicate to the community. And that's how you can get involved. Because I know you're thinking, well, what can I do? When we have calls to action, we need people in the community to participate, to let these elected officials know that we're watching and that you don't support these bills. So before you leave today, please scan the QR code. And if you haven't already signed up for the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California's mailing list, that is our coalition partner. And please, like I said, if you haven't signed up. Secondly, the Africatown Coalition came up with a brilliant idea. They came up with postcards That's to the COEC.
Hard people.
That's saying, no check, no vote. You can they're passing them out, all you have to do is put a stamp on and drop it in the mail. Stamps are 50 cents these days? So you can't, they're almost $1? Well, it's addressed to the California Legislative Black Caucus, so you all should have gotten one of these. Just, take 75 cents, $1 to get a stamp and just drop it in. Yes.
Oh, we just want everybody to mail them from their respective zip codes and give them to other Black people so that they can see that we all feel the same way coming from all over California. And you don't need to write anything because they have a bunch of guidelines, so just send it in.
So please commit to just sending the postcard. Now I'm going to send it Monday. So please, if you don't have a stamp, you can still get them at your local post office. Mail them out, sign up for our mailing list. We send out information, calls to action. So that is, if you want to get involved now, you can just do those two things right now. So we are closed here at closing. I just want to thank you all for coming out on Saturday to hear what's going on. Thank you for caring about the community. Thank you for, caring about reparations, because we're at a pivotal moment. I believe we can win this and will, and it'll be a major breakthrough for our community, a major breakthrough for the reparations movement. I'll just share this real quick. Last year, I actually went to Geneva, Switzerland, to the United Nations. They had a forum for people of African descent, so I went representing LEAD to just talk about reparations in California, and I met people from Brazil, the continent, the Caribbean. They're all thinking about fighting for reparations, and one thing they say, we're all watching what y'all do here. So Black people around the world are not just in America, but around the world are counting on us to get this right. So we have a unique opportunity to be leaders in this space, because for years so many before us have fought for reparations. My generation, it's now on us to bring this home, and with your support and with God on our side, we will. So I just thank you all so much for coming out. Like I said, you have our contact information. If you have any questions, any ideas, please feel free to reach out at any moment, And if you have any events you want us to come and speak at, we do it as a service. We don't get paid to do this. We do this free of charge as a service to the community. So please let us know. Like I said, yes, we do. We do take donations. If you want to donate, you also can go to our website. We have a donate button, www.eliteofficial.org. I would have put that up on the screen here, but we had technical difficulties. So please, write it down, eliteofficial.org. If you want to donate, sign up for our mailing list and get involved. Thank y'all.